So if you've ever watched The Lord of the Rings and found yourself screaming at the screen, just fly the ring to Mordor, you're not alone. It's maybe the biggest debate in all of fantasy. And today, we're going to get into it. The great eagles in J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth.
Ah, that famous line, "The eagles are coming." I mean, it always signals this huge moment of hope, right? A dramatic, last-minute rescue. But it's also the line that sparked this massive debate for decades. Are these amazing creatures just a brilliant part of the story? Or are they, kind of a lazy way to get the heroes out of trouble? And you see it happen over and over, right? Whenever our heroes are in the absolute worst spot, when all hope is gone, bam! The eagles show up. They rescue Thorin and his crew in The Hobbit, they completely turn the tide at the Battle of Five Armies, and then in Lord of the Rings, they save crucial characters from certain death not once, but twice. It's a pattern, for sure.
So, naturally, this has led a lot of people to call them a deus ex machina, and that's just a fancy term for when a story gets wrapped up by some sudden, totally out-of-the-blue intervention. It's like the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card. But you have to ask yourself, is that really what Tolkien was going for? I mean, this is the guy who invented entire languages. Was he really that lazy? Okay, let's get into it.
All right, so to really figure this out, we have to start at the beginning. We need to understand what the great eagles actually are. Because, and this is the key, they are so much more than just giant birds that happen to show up at the perfect moment. Okay, first thing you got to get out of your head, these are not just bigger versions of the eagles we have in our world. Not even close. Tolkien makes it super clear that they are a whole separate race. They're sapient, meaning they're as intelligent as humans or elves. They can speak. They're incredibly ancient and unbelievably proud. Think of them as a noble, free people, not animals. And what's really fascinating is that Tolkien himself kind of played around with their origins in his notes. Like, were they Maiar, those angelic spirits that took on physical forms like Gandalf? Or maybe they were special beings created by Manwë, the king of the gods, the Valar. Or another idea was that they were just normal animals who were, I love this phrase, raised to a higher level. No matter which backstory you go with, one thing is crystal clear. They are not simple creatures. In fact, one version of their story is just mind-blowing. It suggests that they were created and sent out into the world before the first elves even woke up. Just think about that. That would make the eagles the oldest of all the free peoples in Middle-earth, sent by the Valar, the guardians of the world, to be their eyes and ears from the very, very beginning. And we're not talking about some, generic flock of birds here. These are individuals. They're powerful beings with their own names, their own histories, and a legendary family tree that goes all the way back to the dawn of the world.
We actually know their names. The one you see the most in The Lord of the Rings is Gwaihir the Wind Lord. He's usually flying with his brother, Landroval, and another eagle named Meneldur. But here's the thing. They all trace their lineage back to the original, the big one, the mightiest of all birds, the legendary Thorondor.
So how big was Thorondor, the Lord of the Eagles, way back in the First Age? Well, his wingspan was 180 feet. Let that sink in. That's about 55 meters. To give you some perspective on that, a Boeing 747 jumbo jet has a wingspan of around 195 feet. So yeah, Thorondor was a living, breathing creature that was almost as wide as a jumbo jet. We're not talking big bird here, we're talking about a true titan of the sky. And believe me, his actions were just as huge as he was. I mean, this is the guy who, in the First Age, personally dive-bombed the original Dark Lord Morgoth, that's Sauron's old boss, and scarred his face forever. He led the entire army of eagles against a fleet of winged dragons. This wasn't some bit player. He was a warrior king.
So, when you start to see all this, you realize their true purpose in the story isn't just logistical. It's not about transport. It's symbolic. They stand for this really deep idea that was super important to Tolkien's whole way of thinking. And to get it, we actually have to learn a word that Tolkien made up himself. And that word is eucatastrophe. Now, this isn't just a happy ending, it's something more. It's that sudden, joyous turn in a story right when you think everything is lost. It's a miracle, really. He called it the good catastrophe, an unexpected moment of grace that snatches you back from despair.
And this is where you see Tolkien's genius just shine. See, he was an expert in old Germanic literature, and in those stories, there's this recurring image called the beasts of battle. Eagles, ravens, wolves, they were the scavengers that showed up after a fight, and their appearance was a bad omen. It meant death and slaughter. What Tolkien did was take that old, dark image, and he completely flipped it on its head.
Because in Middle-earth, when the eagles show up, it's not a sign of death,
It's the exact opposite. It's a sign of sudden, totally unexpected hope. So you see, they're not just a handy plot device. They are the living, breathing embodiment of eucatastrophe. They are that miraculous moment of grace that appears when things are at their absolute worst.
Which, of course, brings us full circle, right back to the big question that started this whole thing. The one everyone always asks. Okay, so if they're so powerful, and they're obviously on the side of good, why not just fly the ring to Mordor from the get-go? Why couldn't Gwaihir just swoop into the Shire, pick up Frodo, and make a direct flight to Mount Doom? Quest over, right?
Well, the answer really lies in everything we've just talked about. First, and this is huge, they are a proud, free people. They are not a taxi service or beasts of burden you can just order around. Second, think about it. A giant eagle flying straight for Mordor, that is the opposite of stealthy. Sauron's eye would have spotted them 100 miles away. And third, Mordor's airspace was locked down. The Nazgul were up there on their fell beasts patrolling. A direct flight would have been a suicide mission. Their job wasn't to run the whole show. It was to be those agents of eucatastrophe, to step in only at the very last, most desperate moment.
And at the end of the day, their loyalty isn't really to Gandalf or Elrond or any of the people on the ground. They answer to a higher power. They are vassals of Manwë, the king of the Valar, the angelic guardians of the entire world. They're moving as part of a much bigger, almost divine plan, not just following the battle plans of wizards and elves.
So when you look at it this way, the whole idea of the Eagles just transforms. They stop being a convenient plot hole and become this incredibly profound symbol of hope, of grace, of that sudden, miraculous joy Tolkien called eucatastrophe. What they represent is that even when you're in the deepest, darkest moment, hope can still arrive. Literally on wings, magnificent and completely unexpected. So maybe the real question isn't why didn't the Eagles do more? Maybe the real question is, what does it mean when they finally